Happy Wednesday to you, everyone. It is I, Gina White, coming to you once again from my bedroom, where after many months of planning and deciding and wondering how I would video this lovely bodice, I am finally doing it today. I'm so excited. My dear friend Lavender, and I will have her whole name and everything. She's from Duck Lane Vintage on Instagram. Donated this to the House of White Museum a couple months ago with the blessing from her grandma, and I am finally getting around to videoing it. And since I've discovered how to meld two different videos together and add photographs and stuff, I will be able to show the bodice to you on the mannequin and then take it over to the bed so that I can show you the insides and stuff, and then show a picture of Lavender's great grandma, who was the lady who wore this. And then I have information that she gave me that talks about great grandma and all that good stuff. But right now, let's take a look at the outside. This was a mourning bodice that was worn by Lavender's great grandma or great grandma. I've got to get that paperwork out and read it. And of course, then I will be sharing it with you. But for right now, let's look at how beautiful this is. This is from the Edwardian era. So this is a very small bodice. This is my smallest mannequin, and it does fit on, the bodice does, we will call the bodice her from now on. The bodice does fit on my mannequin, Emma. It would have had, because this was Edwardian, this would have had a corset cover worn under it to help with this powder pigeon or pooter pigeon or pigeon front, however you would like to call it, the bust right here, the monobosom, you know, the S-bend silhouette. So it would have had the ruffled corset cover going on here so that this could come out like this. And I don't have one I've got mine, but it is enormous because, you know, I am much bigger than this little tiny mannequin. So hopefully someday when I get an original corset cover, I will be able to put that on the mannequin and then put this beautiful bodice over it. So yes, there is a bit of sadness right here. This silk netting, which is so soft, it tore at some point in time. And so I will be looking for some to help it, to recreate the sleeve. But the whole thing is made out of silk, and this is a beautiful silk. I don't know what kind of silk it is. It's not satin and it's not taffeta. And it certainly is not velvet. But going along here, look at this beautiful lace work. Isn't that just lovely? And then they took, I don't know if this is homemade, it could have been, but they took all of this netting up here and, not netting, tulle, there we go, made self decorations up here. Not decorations, ruffles, there we go. And then look at this beautiful beadwork. Is that not just stunning? And it is a mourning bodice. The family has, what is it called when you have, it'll come to me in a minute. But isn't that beautiful? And then down here, this would have been the part that would have tucked into the skirt. And I would assume, because I've got another bodice that is very similar to this, where it's got netting right here, it would have had netting on the skirt and possibly some of this beaded trim. All right, and we'll go here. And look at the sleeves. They're just, isn't that beautiful? And of course there's hooks and eyes there. There we go, focus on the inside. And then some more of this incredibly lovely lace up here. And Emma's a little bit squeaky, so I apologize for that. Isn't that pretty? I just love, I mean, it's just incredibly beautiful. And then back here, okay, look at the buttons. These are, okay, whoops. There's a pin from the mannequin. We shall move that over there. So here is the closure in the back. And how they've done this They put, I want to call it a button guard. It's probably not what it is, but there you have those beautiful buttons. Isn't that lovely? The design. It's probably glass. I'm going to go, it's cold. So they could have been like check glass buttons, maybe. And there's some. Then this is hooks and eyes up here. Isn't that lovely? I just think it's so beautiful. And I can just imagine Lavender's great grandma wearing this. Oh, I like to imagine how people look when they're wearing their clothes. In mourning, but still so very elegant and beautiful. Okay, well, I'm gonna go take the bodice off of Emma and I'll lay it flat on the bed and then we'll look at the inside. And then I will have pictures of great grandma and the story about her marriage and a little bit more about her. I'll be right back. Okay, here we are back with the Edwardian mourning bodice that Lavender and her grandmother sent to me. I've taken her off of Emma and I've laid her on her stomach so that we can check out the insides of this beautiful small waist that Clara, Lavender's great-grandma, wore when she was young. So Grandma Clara got married in 1913. And so going back many years, this would have been worn as a mourning bodice by a very young Clara. And like I always like to say, not all black is mourning and not all mourning is black. But happily, I have provenance from Lavender's family saying that this is indeed a mourning bodice that Lavender's grandmother Linda's mom Clara wore. Wow, that was a mouthful. So anyway, let's dive into what the inside of this looks like. And I have my handy dandy stand out so that I can use both hands to open this beautiful bodice. Okay, here we go. Okay. So the fun thing, I mean, I love antique garments like crazy, and I love how they look from the front, but the best thing for me is what I like to call the innards of a bodice, because while the outside looks absolutely fantastic, sometimes the insides are everything but fantastic. And this bodice it actually looks really lovely on the inside. A lot of the, let's see, where was it? Right here, let me put my glasses back on so I can see. So right here, there is, well, there we go, focus. This was a side seam that was, kind of looks like she attempted to flat fell it, but it didn't get quite felled. So what they did was they took this raw edge right here and whip stitched it, and that would have kept this side seam from unraveling, because this is silk. It is a very fine silk, and I can just imagine how this unraveled like crazy. So that is one of the things that our ancestors did to keep seams from unraveling, was they would do a whip stitch. Sometimes they would bind them like up here in the arm side. So you have the bodice section, the front and back, and then you have the sleeve, and it would have fit into here, and this is called the arm side. And what happened here was it was bound. So that would keep the armhole or arm side raw edges from unraveling, which is very important because you didn't want to unravel it past that seam right there, because then you would have a hole in your sleeve, in your arm side, and you so did not want that. But then up here, there we go. Right here, do you see this raw edge right here? Nothing is done to it, but it is probably because there wasn't a lot of motion going on up here. I mean, it just kind of sits on your shoulder, as opposed to you have a lot of motion going on in your arm side and a lot of motion going on with these side seams. So that is very lovely construction. And I think it is so fantastic when you have both machine and hand stitching in a garment. That is just so neat. So right here, this is where, again, like I said in the previous video, this was powder pigeon or pooter pigeon or pigeon front, or however you want to call it. The front of the bodice would have, so it would have gone like this, and then it would have swooped out so that you had that little pouch right here. And all of this gathering that's where that came from. So it would have been longer than the sides. The front would have been longer than the sides. Then they would have gathered it and put it into this waistband area here. And then this again was what they tucked into the skirt. So right here, this is fun. In the other video, remember there was that decoration going down the front, and it was this silk netting that they had made. Whoever made this had used this netting to make ruffles, and then in the middle of the ruffles was this beautiful beaded trim. And as you can see by the stitching, I'll get it up here, it was all put on by hand. So very neat. And again, look, I love how they just put it on. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a stitch in time, saves 9. It was just put on, because these were made to be worn. These were, I doubt it if they made these to be put into a fair. I don't know, maybe they did, but these were clothing. These were pieces of clothing that these people wore. I want to remind you of these beautiful buttons. Aren't those beautiful? I love the design. And then I wanted to show you the buttonholes. And this right here feels more of a cotton silk blend. I'm not sure, it's a different feeling than this. So maybe to have it be stronger for the buttonholes, I don't know. But okay, so the cool thing, I mean, this whole thing is cool, but what really delighted my heart when I saw it was, remember the video I did talking about collar stays and how you could get them already made, like these two examples right here, or you can make your own out of thread covered wire, or some people used baleen, some people used, of course I forgot the word, the precursor to plastic. I'll come back to that one when I'm reminded of it. But look at what was done here. This is thread covered wire. And they made a long oval and used those for collar stays. Aren't they fantastic? Oh, and look again, we've got machine and hand stitching right here just to get it on. So fantastic. So there's that one. And these were on the sides. So right up above that, the shoulder seam. And then there's one here. And then there's this squished one that was at the very center back. So here are the hooks and eyes. Or the hooks. Nope, those are the bars. And then over here we have the eyes. So how incredible is this? I just think this is so fantastic. I do have some information that Lavender sat down and dictated to me via, or recorded for me via Instagram. And I think what I want to do is put this bodice back on Emma, and just, I had to take my notes and sharpen it up and make it sound legible for you to hear. But I do want to share what Lavender shared about her family. So I'll be right back again. This bodice was worn by Lavender Tatum's great-grandmother, Clara, when she was a young girl in the Edwardian era. Clara Gilmore was an Irish immigrant of Jewish descent who married Charles Chrisman, a very wealthy Catholic American, in 1913. The marriage was most likely a marriage of convenience, money, political gain, and family power. Clara and Charles lived in an 8-bedroom house in Marion, Ohio, and owned a holiday and hunting house in Sweden. Although their union produced 2 daughters, Lavender's great-grandmother Linda and her sister Kay, The marriage didn't last, and Clara and Charles divorced, but kept it quiet. Sadly, in 1978, the 8-bedroom house, which had fallen into disrepair, was bulldozed. But Lavender and her family owned the wedding gown Clara wore on her wedding day that was found in the attic. Isn't that neat? I love history behind the family heirlooms that are gifted to me. It's just so special. Thank you, Lavender and Grandma Linda. I also want to talk a little bit about Lavender's store on Instagram called Duck Lane Vintage. I have purchased, I just recently purchased a dress from Lavender, and I cannot wait for it to come to me. But she sells items from the Victorian era, I think, if I heard correctly, the Georgian era as well, up into vintage, which we had a discussion about this last night, is the 1990s. And I'm like, okay, I graduated in 1990, right? I cannot be vintage. I just cannot. Anyway, she has fantastic things. So many pieces of clothing, vintage, accessories, you name it, she's got it. And she makes sales catalogs. And if you want to have a private consultation, she does those over Zoom. So I would strongly suggest purchasing from Lavender and Duck Lane Vintage because you will not be sorry. And again, I thank you so much, Lavender and Grandma Linda, for trusting me with this beautiful family heirloom. And yeah, I will treasure it always. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Toodaloo!